Last time we talked about images and assets, but this time let's talk about buttons. In your live folder, let's create a new file called buttons.dart. And of course, we are going to do the normal scaffold. So let's just copy the up bar right from here and go over to the buttons and create a status widget. And we are going to call it button screen. And of course, we are going to import our material. And we are also going to return a scaffold past the up bar. And we're going to call this buttons. Now we are going to just run this and see what it gives us. Okay, so we have it running, but if you go back to your main.dart, you want to set the screen to be button screen. And we have a blank screen with our scaffold there. Now let's go into our button screen. And before we go ahead, I need to let you know that there are a couple of buttons in Flutter, and the one we are going to be looking at is text button, elevated button, and outline button. There are three, which is probably the ones you are going to be using most in your Flutter development. There are also a couple of ones like a drop-down button, like the icon button, and a couple of other ones. But we are going to be talking about these three and probably just take one or two of the other ones that exist. So for now, we are going to be talking about text button, elevated button, outline button. Okay, now to go ahead, we are going to create a body and have a column here that has a couple of children, which we also call a const here. The first one is the text button, which we are going to supply, and it's going to take an unpressed and a child here. Okay, and a child would just be a text that we are going to show on the button. So we are going to say text button. And then the unpressed is going to take a function here, and here is the function. Now there's a little error here. It's because we have supplied a const here. Now instead, we are going to supply a const here, make our text constant. And when you save that, you are going to see a text button here. Now there's a little bit. Let's do main axis alignment and make this center. And we save that. We have that center, and we can say cross axis alignment to make it center as well. And we save that. We have it not centered, but it doesn't matter. Let's continue. All right. The next one we want to do is, and we supply a size box of height 20 to give it some space, and it's going to be a constant. And then we have an elevated button. There's another one called elevated button, and it's going to take an pressed as well, and it's going to take a child of const text, which is going to be elevated button. And we are going to supply another size box here to give it some space. And the last will be an outline button, which is here. And it's going to take an unpressed as well. And we are just going to copy this to the child. And we will supply an outline button here. And we are good to go. So you can see the text button is just text. The second one is an elevated button. it has a little background, and then an outline button has an outline, basically. Okay, and so let's see some of the properties of this button and what are they different to each other. Okay, so let's say you want to change some of the properties of text button. It has a property here that we can change. And this property is a style. So let's say you want to apply a style to a button. So you want to apply a style, it will be a text button, the style from, and let's put a comma there. And you can put a couple of properties. And some of the property, you can see you can apply some text style, you can apply some background color, you can apply a couple of something there. And you can always use that. Okay, so let's do something and put a background color and say it's colored up blue. Let's see what it becomes. So it changes the color of the background. And if we change this to primary and you save that, you see the color of the text actually changes, basically. And that is everything about the text box, text button. And you can always see, apply a size, and you can apply a text style, the style on the text here. All right. Now we go ahead to elevated button. For an elevated button, it's almost the same thing. To apply the style, you say elevated button and you do a style from. And for the primary, let's say this is colors.green. You will see it's going to change the color. And if you want to change the text color, you can say on primary and give it another color, say red, something like that. And it changes. Also, you can add some elevation. And let's say we apply it, it's going to elevate. If you put 10 there, you can see the elevation, the button is a little bit raised, basically. And the last one will be our outline button. For outline button, it looks like the others. You supply a style, and it's going to give you this. Like this. And you can add a couple of elevations like this, and you have the on primary, you have the primary color here. There's no on primary here, and you have an elevation to be 10, and when you do that, this is what it brings. Also, you see on primary we have the color to be green, which you can see here. Let's sort of remove the elevation, and there's no elevation anymore. It's just going to take the background that it is in right now. So let's say you want to change the side, the outline, the color of the side. You can add a border side to it. And if you go to the property, you can see you have a couple of things there that you can use. So for the border side, we can just pass in a color, and let's say it's colored dot red. And there's a little problem here, just us to pass in a const there. And when you save that, you see the color is red. Okay, so that's basically this what they can do. Also, imagine that you want to add an icon to the button. There is another thing you can do. You can pass in that icon, and it's going to require an icon and a label that you can see here. So let's say icon, and you are going to pass in icons dot, let's say add. It's going to be a const. But this time it wants you to pass in label instead of child. So when you save that, you see we have that. Same thing for elevated button. It's looking for an icon and a label. So let's call it a label. And for the icon, let's use the same thing. And we have it here. Also for an outline button, we have almost the same thing, but this is a label. And we save that, and we have that. How about if you want to give it some sizes? You want to give your button sizes. So if you go to OK, and you go to the style, you will see a minimum size there. And so let's apply a minimum size. And if you apply minimum size, it's going to take a size property. It's going to take a width and a height. So let's say for the width, we say the width is 50 and the height is 100. It's going to take a const. And there's a height here, but because it's a text button, you can't see. Let's apply this same thing to our elevated button. You will be able to see that. You see, it gives it some height. How about the outline? If you do that, it's going to do exactly, it gives it some height. How about if you want to take the width of the screen? Okay, there's something you can do. If you go here, you can set the size of the screen and say final size equals to media query. This is beyond the context of this tutorial, but I thought I'd be able to let you in on this. So we are taking the size of the screen, and we can pass in the size here. So the size needs a width and a height. So let's do that on the elevated button. So we can do a size dot width here, but we are going to get rid of the constant. And there you go. You see, it takes the width of the screen and displays it, basically. And if you want to take this width, half of the screen, you do some math, you divide it by 2, basically. So this is how you can work with buttons in Flutter. If you like this tutorial, please make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more videos.